Yes, Divya, we are live.
Thank you, Kranti. Hello, everyone. So yesterday we have seen couple of extraction of different types of values in the very simple invoice, right? So today we have the major role of extracting the table and the repeating group, right? So we do have one of the table over here, and I'm going to demonstrate how to extract this specific table by using both table element and as well as by using a repeating group today, right? Okay, so far we have seen whatever we have seen so far, it was all about extracting the values first and then creating the blocks and then map these values to the block basically. But now the scenario is quite different. We need to first have to create the block first and then we have to create an element when we are working with the table, right? So let's see how to create a block for the table. I'll go to the blocks, right click, add block and then table. So here I have a table block. I'm just going to say table element. Okay, and then I'll click on the columns. Okay, sorry. So I want to create in the second layout, not in the first layout. Then I'm going to create the columns and I'm going to add the column names. I do have 5 different columns. So let me start with the column names. Item, that's the text I want to extract. I'll add description, IPTION. Okay, and I have a unit price, PRICE, and then I'm going to add quantity, and then I'm going to add amount, right? So I have 5 columns and I have added 5 columns in the list. And I'm going to click on apply and click on OK. So now I have a block ready to create a element called the table. So now what I just have to do is like all in the structure of the values, I'm just going to right click and click on add element and click on table. So now table values and then I'll click on the columns. So as soon as I clicked on the column, then I have to select the table block which is already created. So what I just have to do is like when I click on select, I'm going to get this and I'll select the table and I'll click on OK. So as soon as I select the table, I'm able to get this columns, right? Just give me a minute. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so as soon as I added the table element and I have mapped the table element, I'll be automatically getting all the column names popped up. So now there are chances when we are working with the semi-structured invoices, right? And when I'm working with specific vendors, there might be a chances where the table headers, I mean the column numbers will be the same, column meaning also would be the same, but only the header name might be differ from one pattern to another pattern when I'm dealing with the semi-structure. For example, here instead of the description, I might have just DESC. In the unit price, I might have just unit PRC. In the quantity, instead of complete quantity, I might have just QNT, and instead of amount, I might have just AMT. So I don't have to define everything again and again or having a different column for each of everything, right? What I can just do is like, if you can double click on that, here I'll be able to define all the expected values. So for now, item, which is good. Even if you have any of the static text in the multi-lines, in any of the columns, you can just go ahead and have this as a multi-line name. And for example, if you want to use the same name as the column name which is defined in the blocks, you can just go ahead and define that as well. Or if you already found that specific column name, if it is completely variable, and if you're able to find that in any of the static reference or as a value field, that is also possible, right? So for now I'm just going to give the detect word by the keywords in the name. Okay, and the order. Okay, so let me do the same thing for all. Description, that's correct. And then the quantity price, I do not have this underscore, it's the space. Click on OK. Quantity I do have. Okay, and then amount, and amount looks good to me. And then I'll click on OK, and then I'll click on order. Here is the standard order, like fixed column order, where you can just go ahead and edit this order. So if you know this is exactly the same order, you can just go and edit. If there might be a chances where quantity might come in front of the unit price and this might varies, then you can also add multiple orders here. So you can just click on add, there will be new another set, so you can just add all possible orders for that specific semi-structured vendor you are dealing with. Okay, if you want to write any rules to define any of the column order also, you can just go ahead and do it here. So for now, let's go with the fixed column, and we'll come back with rules and adding the multiple orders and all of those things in our upcoming advanced trainings. And then the headers. So header is like, for example, when we are dealing with a multi-page document. So now this is very simple one, and there are a couple of times where we will be dealing with multi-page documents. In that, when we are dealing with the multi-page document, there are two ways. Either each and every page of that document will have the header, or a header will be there in only one specific page, I mean the first page, and all other pages will not be having any of the headers. And it will be just the data which will be going through all the pages. So you can just define that in header is on each page, true or false. And then whether you want to look for the headers, yes, I want to look for the header. And is a header is optional? No. If header is a required element, I don't want to pick that when the header is not found, right? And then number of hypotheses, it's always standard to good to have it in one. And then the footer. So let's go to the footer. So look for the footer. You can just define the footer. This footer is going to indicate that this will be a end of the table. For now, I'll take this notes as a footer, because whatever the data which is written in the notes is not included for the column values of the table. So what I'll do is I'll just say notes colon. And yeah, footer also will be like, you can have the footer in every page, or you can just have the footer just once at the end of the page. That also you can just go ahead and define it here. Okay, and then again the footer, whether it is an optional or whether it is a required element, you can just go ahead and define it here. And then the rows. How to identify the rows? For example, here in the description there is only one line, but there are chances where description might go for the multi lines. And if you're saying one line of the text corresponding to each row, means it is just going to pick only one line of the description or only one line of the data in each and every column when you're defining one line at the corresponding row. But when you're expecting the description might go for more than one row, you can just unclick this and then use a master column to detect the rows. Master column is nothing but, so I can take the amount as a master column, because amount is the compulsory required element inside of each and every row item or the table element for each and every row to be defined, right? So I'll just take the amount, and then so what is the alignment of this master column, whether it will be in the top of the row or whether it will be in the bottom of the row. So basically I'll just take this as a top of the row for now, right? And then I'll go to the search constraints. I do not have any specific search constraints. I just want to read it throughout the document, wherever it finds the header, wherever it's found the footer. I just want to extract all the values. Relations, yeah, I can define the relations that it should be below of the bottom of the due date. Static text, I can check a due date, and then make sure, okay, here is a main difference when you are defining the relation between the repeating group and the table. When you are using a repeating group, you will be giving a relation by below of the bottom of the header elements. But when you're defining the relation for the tables, you have to define the relation on which should be included the static header elements as well, right? So just to make sure that you, whenever you guys are defining the relation with respect to the table, just to make sure you guys are including these headers as well in that specific search area, right? And then I'm just going to add one more below of the bottom of the value of the due date, and then I'm going to add above of the top of the subtotal, and then I'm just going to add another one above the top of the subtotal value which we have extracted. Okay, we have not extracted the subtotal value, which is fine. I'm just going to take balance due, and then I'm going to traverse for 300, right? 300. Then I'll click on add relation, apply, okay, and click on S, and then I'll do Control E. Control E is shortcut to match. And when I click on the table values, and the table values, so you will be able to see this has been identified. And even though in the sample, if you had seen, there were no separators of rows and the columns, but as soon as I have defined the headers, header, footer, and the values, when it is trying to figure out, you will be able to see what is exactly value has been extracting and which specific search area, how it is dividing the columns and how it is defining the rows. So you will be able to just define these things. You will be able to see all these things. If there is something messy, if you found, then you can just go ahead and add the specific property to define the rows and the columns with respect to values which needs to be extracted. So far we have seen that just make sure when you're creating a table element, you have to create the block first and then the element, the first rule. Then the second rule is you have to include the header area also when you're searching the area. So if you just look at this, I'm searching for this whole grayed out area to search for my table. So just to make sure wherever you're defining the footer, wherever you're defining the headers of that whole table, just make sure your search area will be also covering these two, right? These are the main two things which you need to take in care. So this is about the table element creation to extract any of the simple tables. So any questions so far with respect to the table extraction? Which the type of the table? If no, let's go with the extraction of the same table with the repeating group, right? So I'm just going to add a couple of the static text to take that as a reference to extraction. So I'm just going to take item 1, static text, Control A, item, whole words, add relation, left of my invoice number or invoice date, and then below of the bottom of my due date, and then at above of the top of my subtotal. Okay, Control C, apply, okay, and I'll do Control E, and I'm able to get, selected, and I'm able to get item. And then I'm just going to add 4 more, Control C, V3, 4, and 5 for nodes. Okay. And now I'm just going to add this one, edit this one with the description. IPTION description, go to the static text, edit this, CRIPTION description. You can just remove whole words, it's fine since you are defining the search area. Then you can add the relation. Along with that, I know this should be there in this item row itself. So I'm going to define the above and below with respect to the item we found. Below of the top of this description item with minus 30 at relation, Control C, Control V, above the bottom with minus, and then I'm going to add again right of the item. So if you just look at that, yesterday we were not adding so many relations, but as I said, it's always good to have as more relations as you can, right? So it's not always good to depend only on one element. It's always nice to have multiple relations so that even one element has been found, failed to found, then it will be able to pick it from all other elements which has been found, right? I'm just going to have this one, so which makes sense for me to copy the description because I don't have to again define the above and below with respect to the item. So now I'll copy the description for unit price, quantity, and the amount. So I'm going to edit unit price, okay, and then here unit price, search constraints relations, and I'm going to add one more right of this description. Oh, I'm sorry. Cancel. Where did my description? I think this was my description. I edited that. I'm sorry. Right of the item. So I'm just, this is my description. CRIPTION. Okay. And now I need to change this, not the description. Unit price, static text, unit price, relation. Along with that, I'm going to add one more right of the description. Click on add relation, and we have taken this left of the invoice date, and this is very near. So what I can do is, like, instead of that, I'll just make it with minus 100, right? Apply. Okay, and now I'm going to add quantity, and in the quantity, static text, quantity, relation. So here the quantity is left of the right of the invoice date. Now we just need to change this, whichever we do have left of the left, I'll just make it as left of the right, and then I can take again minus 150 here, minus 150. Save changes. Above, below, I have this item, and I can just add one more of right of the unit price, which I have defined just now. Apply. Okay, and then now I have the amount, and I will be picking up, change this to amount, amount, relations. And again, I'm just going to define, instead of left of the left, I'll be taking right of the invoice date. That's correct. And then I'm going to add one more relation, right of the quantity. Right of the quantity. add relation, apply, okay, control, save. And then I'm going to define the nodes. So I want that to take it as a footer reference. So I'm just going to define all that as well. So nodes colon, I'm going to remove this, add relation, above, below, and all it's fine. I'm just going to add one more thing, below of the bottom of this item, whatever I found, and then subtotal, yes, which is good. And then I can also add one more relation, left of the right of the description. Apply, okay, control save, control E. So now I do have all this static text which are required to define my repeating group. So I do have all the references. Now I'm just going to, inside of the values, add element, and I'm going to add the group called repeating group. And then I'll just say RG values. And you don't have to do anything. So just make sure this is exclude previous instance from the search area has been ticked when you're working with the simple layouts. But there are few situations where you have to disable this. What are those kind of areas? When are we going to use these relations? We will be seeing them in our advanced training, where the description might be going beyond like 2 to 3 lines. You never know like how many number of lines it's going to be extracting, and you want to extract that data in using a repeating group, not using a table. So there are other situations where we come across with all these properties which we do have with respect to the repeating group. We will be just going them deeply when we pick up the very complex layouts, right? So for now I'm just going to click on apply, okay. And inside of the repeating group, I need to add a elements. So this element, we should always start with the master element or the master column, which I can take it. Right. So here, since all the rows have all the values, I can just take anything as a master column. But there are chances where the description might be empty, or there might be other columns which might be empty, right? So just like while you're defining with any of the columns, master column, make sure that column exists in each and every row. I mean to say the value of that specific column should be available in each and every row in the whole table. So for now, I'm just going to take an item. So wait, item value character string. I'm going to just add all the characters. Define. I'm going to add right of the left of the static reference item with -30, add relation, and then I'm going to define left of the column name description with some 50, right? Okay, so and then apply, okay. So now again for this we need to define above and the below. I mean to say the top and the bottom needs to be defined. There are two ways to define the bottom, above and the below, or the top and the bottom. Either you need to go and have the relation for each and every element inside of the group, or you define it in the group level. Here I can go to the relation below of the bottom of item, static text item, add relation. I'm just going to add one more with the description, and I'm going to add above the top of this notes. Apply, okay. So if you have added any of the relation with respect to the whole group, you don't have to define those relations again to all each and every elements which are available. Just give me a minute. It's raining so badly and you're getting a background noise. Just give me a minute. Hopefully this is better. Okay. Is this better now, Kranti? I'm sorry.
Yes, Divya.
Yeah, thank you. So we can just go ahead and define the relation with respect to the whole group, so that the same properties is going to apply for each and every value row items inside of that. So now I have an item value which has been defined. Here I do have, yeah, left and the right. There are, okay, here also in this character string you can just define the minimum character, maximum character, and also the regular expression. There are chances where you want to extract only the part of this specific column, not the whole column. And for that, what you will do, for example, in description I'll be having a model or the brand, and I want to extract that model or the brand, which we will be taking specific samples later sometime. But yeah, when you are defining that, you will be having a specific matches or the pattern which you can just go ahead and match that pattern. In that case, what you do is like you will just go ahead and add that specific pattern over in the regular expression. But there is a chance that the description might have some other data which is going to match with the same regex which we have defined, and that will be there in the same row again. So what you want is like you just have to pick that first match, and as soon as it is done, it is done. You don't have to pick any other, even though it's going to match the same pattern. So if that is the case, in the relation, you can just go ahead and define below of the bottom of. So by default, there is a current instance, right? You just have to click on this and make a last found, and then select the same column which we are defining now, right? There is no harm, you can just always have this relation, but it is not necessary that you have to have it always. But whenever you feel the conflicts when we are extracting the values, then you can just go ahead and make sure you have handled that. So when I click on that, so this is my item value, and I'm able to find 3 item values. So now by having this item value as a reference, I can just go ahead and extract all of the columns by using this. So to make sure I'm using this as a master column, I'll make it as a required element inside of the repeating group, and I can just have this description. So let me define that description, and I can copy the description and then just make the little modification which is required. I have added all the set of the characters, and here left of the unit price, and then right of the left of the description with -30, and then click on apply, and below you can just remove this and then define the above and below with respect to the item. Below of the top of this item, and with -20, it's always to give some 20 or 25 margin. So it's good that even if it's going to little above and below, you will be able to handle that. Above of the bottom of this item, apply, okay, control save. So now let's test whether we are getting the description. Yes, we are getting the description as expected. So I'm just going to copy the same thing, unit price, quantity, and the amount. So this is my description, this is my unit price, and my quantity, and my amount, and amount. Okay, and then in the unit price, I'm just go and define the left and the right. Right of the left of the unit price, and then left of the quantity, and the left of the quantity, and I'm making sure we do have 50 pixels. Yeah, we do have 100 plus, so 50 looks good. And then apply, okay, save, and let's come to the quantity again, change the relations. with respect to the quantity, and then left of the amount. Save changes, apply, okay. And then again with the amount, we don't need to traverse left side, so I'm just going to define, delete the left, and then I'm just going to define with respect to the amount, right? And also along with these relation, you can also define the relations with respect to each and every element, that right of the current instance of the item, okay, and unit price is next to the description. I'm just going to add right of the description, apply quantity, again add right of the unit price, apply, okay, amount, add right of the quantity, add relation, apply, okay, control save. I'll do control E, and when I click on my repeating group, I'm able to get all the values which has been expected as in the expected format. Right now, how to create a block for the repeating group is, in the blocks, right click, add block, have a repeating group, and then I'll just go here, and when you select this, you will be able to available elements inside of the whole elements which we have created so far is only the repeating group you can map, right? So you can select apply, and then inside of the repeating group I have to define item. For this one, I'm just going to pick item value. Control save. For 5 description, I'm just going to add elements value description, apply, okay, and then unit price option elements 1, and then the unit price, apply, okay, and then quantity, and then the quantity, apply, okay, and then the amount, okay, go to the search elements and select the amount. Fine, we are good. We are having all 5 elements. And when I do this, selected, instead of that, I'm just going to make it as blocks. And when I select this block, you will be able to see what is the exact value which has been extracted for the repeating group. And if you want to select the table, you will be able to see this, table which will be extracting. And then you can just go and traverse each and every element which has been extracted. If you want to see all the values, you can just go here, change it to all, and then you will be able to see all the values which you are extracting from the layout. So this is how you can just go ahead and extract the value inside of the table, either by using a table element or by using a repeating group. When to use repeating group, why to use repeating group when we already have the table, or like what are all the different consequences which we might get going forward when we are dealing with the multi-page, multi-line descriptions and then other complexities. We will again come back in our upcoming sessions, and we will be dealing with those things. So any questions so far? I think I'm good from my end for today. The topic has been covered, that extraction of the element, table elements using the table element and by using a repeating group. So any questions in this, or even the elements which we have created yesterday?
As of now, no questions, Divya. We'll wait a minute or two.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you so much, Divya, for the session. There are no questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Kranti. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.